Kara let out a frustrated sigh as she rummaged through the piles of scrap and debris. She had been scouring this abandoned facility for hours, but all she had managed to find were a few broken tools and some outdated electronic components. "Scylla, did you find anything useful over there?" Kara called out to her companion, a young girl with bright blue skin and large, expressive eyes. Scylla emerged from behind a towering stack of crates, shaking her head. "Nothing but more junk. I don't understand how humans could have lived in such a messy place." Kara nodded in agreement. The ruins of this ancient civilization were a far cry from the clean, orderly cities on their home planet of Xander. Still, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of curiosity about these mysterious humans that all the old records mentioned. "Let's keep looking. There has to be something worth salvaging in here somewhere," Kara said, determination filling her voice. The two girls continued their search, carefully navigating the maze of crumbling corridors and rooms. Kara marveled at the strange, unfamiliar technology that littered the facility. She had studied the history of other alien races, but the humans remained an enigma, their civilization vanishing long before the Xandarians had even achieved spaceflight. As they turned a corner, Kara noticed an intact doorway up ahead, its metallic frame still mostly intact. "Over there, let's check that room," she said, picking up her pace. Scylla hurried after her, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. Kara reached the doorway first and peered inside, her eyes widening in surprise. The room was massive, its high ceiling disappearing into the gloom above. But what caught Kara's attention were the strange cylindrical structures lining the walls. Dozens of them, all neatly arranged in rows. "What are those?" Scylla asked, coming up beside her. "I'm not sure," Kara replied, stepping cautiously into the room. As she drew closer, she could see that each cylinder had a small window, and something seemed to be floating inside each one. Scylla followed close behind, her curiosity overriding her usual caution. "They look almost like pods of some kind. Do you think they're storage units?" Kara shook her head, running her fingers along the smooth metallic surface of the nearest pod. "I've never seen anything like this before. Whatever they are, they seem to be in pristine condition, unlike the rest of this place." The girls slowly made their way down the rows of pods, examining them closely. Some were dark and lifeless, but others had a faint glow emanating from within. "I wonder what's inside them," Scylla murmured, peering intently through the window of one of the illuminated pods. Kara stepped closer, her heart racing. "I don't know, but I think we're about to find out." Reaching out, she placed her hand on the pod's surface, feeling a slight vibration beneath her fingertips. Slowly, the window slid open, revealing the contents within. Scylla gasped, her eyes going wide. "Kara, is that a _human _?" Floating in the pod, suspended in some kind of viscous liquid, was the unmistakable form of a human being. Kara stared in awe, her mind racing to comprehend what she was seeing. "It can't be," she breathed, leaning in for a closer look. The human appeared to be a young male, his features peaceful and serene as he drifted in the pod. "How is this possible?" The girls stood in stunned silence, their previous scavenging mission forgotten as they grappled with this incredible discovery. Kara's fingers traced the edge of the pod's window, her mind buzzing with 1,000 questions. Where had these humans come from? How had they ended up here, in this abandoned facility, frozen in time? And most importantly, were there more of them? Scylla turned to Kara, her eyes shining with a mixture of wonder and trepidation. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kara took a deep breath, steeling her resolve. "We find out," she said, her hand falling to the control panel beside the pod. "We find out everything we can." With a decisive motion, she pressed a button, and the pod's systems whirred to life, casting an eerie glow over the girls' faces as they peered into the unknown. Kara and Scylla watched in rapt attention as the pod's machinery came to life, whirring and humming with a strange, otherworldly energy. The young human inside remained motionless, suspended in the translucent liquid that filled the chamber. "What do you think is happening?" Scylla whispered, her eyes never leaving the pod. Kara shook her head, her fingers dancing across the control panel as she tried to decipher its alien functions. "I'm not sure, but it seems like the pod is activating some kind of life support system." As she spoke, the liquid began to slowly drain from the chamber, lowering the human's body until it was resting on the bottom of the pod. Kara and Scylla leaned in closer, their breaths catching in their throats as they waited with bated anticipation. Suddenly, the pod's window slid open with a hiss, and the human's eyes fluttered open. Kara and Scylla both jumped back in surprise, their hearts pounding. The human blinked a few times, his gaze unfocused and disoriented. Kara watched as he slowly looked around, taking in his strange, alien surroundings. A small groan escaped his lips, and Kara felt a surge of empathy for the poor creature. "It's okay," she found herself saying, her voice soft and gentle. "You're safe now." The human's eyes snapped to hers, and for a moment, Kara was transfixed by their deep brown color. She had read about human eyes in the ancient texts, but seeing them in person was something else entirely. Scylla moved closer, her curiosity overriding her initial fear. "What do you think he's feeling?" she asked, tilting her head to the side. Kara shrugged, never taking her eyes off the human, probably very confused and scared. "Can you imagine waking up in a place like this, with two strange-looking aliens staring at you?" The human's brow furrowed, and he slowly reached up to touch the side of the pod, as if testing the reality of his situation. Kara and Scylla watched with bated breath, their own questions burning in their minds. After a moment, the human's gaze settled on Kara, and he opened his mouth, letting out a series of strange, guttural sounds. Kara winced at the unfamiliar language, but she could sense the desperation in his voice. "I'm sorry," she said, shaking her head apologetically. "I don't understand." The human's shoulders slumped, and Kara felt a pang of sympathy. She reached out, hesitantly placing her hand on the edge of the pod. "Don't worry," she said, offering him a small, reassuring smile. "We're going to help you." Scylla nodded enthusiastically, moving to stand beside Kara. "Yes, we'll figure this out. You're not alone anymore." The human seemed to sense their kindness, and some of the tension left his body. He slowly moved his hand, reaching out to touch Kara's fingers with his own. Kara's heart skipped a beat at the unexpected contact, and she felt a strange warmth spreading through her chest. She had never experienced anything like this before, this intense connection with another living being. "What do you think he's trying to say?" Scylla whispered, interrupting the moment. Kara tore her gaze away from the human, turning to her friend. "I'm not sure, but I get the feeling he's just as confused and scared as we are." She looked back at the human, her brow furrowing in thought. "We need to figure out a way to communicate with him. There has to be something in this facility that can help us understand each other." Scylla nodded eagerly, her eyes shining with excitement. "Do you think there are more of them? What if there are whole cities of these humans just waiting to be discovered?" Kara couldn't help but smile at her friend's infectious enthusiasm. "I don't know, but I intend to find out. This is the most incredible thing we've ever come across." She turned her attention back to the human, who was watching their exchange with a curious expression. Reaching out, Kara gently placed her hand on the side of the pod, her fingers brushing against the translucent surface. "Don't worry," she said, her voice soft and reassuring. "We're going to take care of you." The human stared back at her, his eyes filled with a glimmer of hope. Kara knew that from this moment on, nothing would ever be the same. The hours ticked by as Kara and Scylla studied the strange human in the pod, their curiosity and fascination growing with every passing minute. They had tried in vain to communicate with him, but the language barrier proved to be a formidable obstacle. "There has to be a way to understand each other," Kara muttered, poring over the control panel's intricate display. "I just can't figure out how this technology works." Scylla watched her friend intently, her brow furrowed in concentration. Maybe we should try a different approach. What if we just... She paused, her eyes lighting up with an idea. What if we try to wake up the other pods? Kara looked up, her expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. You think there could be more humans in here? Scylla nodded enthusiastically. It's worth a shot, isn't it? If we can revive the others, maybe they'll be able to help us communicate with this one. Kara considered the proposal, her gaze drifting back to the human, who was watching their exchange with a curious expression. All right, she said, straightening up. Let's do it. The girls set to work, carefully examining each pod and its corresponding controls. It was slow, painstaking work, as they had to decipher the alien technology and ensure they didn't accidentally harm the occupants. Scylla let out a triumphant cry as one of the pods began to hum to life, the liquid inside slowly draining away. Kara rushed to her side, her heart racing with anticipation. It's working, Scylla exclaimed, bouncing on the balls of her feet. I think we're doing it. Kara held her breath as the pod's window slid open, revealing the face of another human. This one, a young woman with delicate features and dark hair. She blinked slowly, her eyes wide with confusion, as she took in her surroundings. Easy there, Kara said softly, reaching out to steady the woman as she began to stir. You're safe now. The human woman's gaze settled on Kara, and for a moment, they simply stared at each other, both equally bewildered by the encounter. Then, a small smile tugged at the corners of the woman's lips, and she slowly raised her hand in a tentative gesture. Kara felt a surge of hope, and she gently grasped the woman's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. Can you understand me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman's brow furrowed, and she opened her mouth, letting out a soft, uncertain sound. Kara's heart sank, realizing that the language barrier was still very much in place. It's okay, she said, offering the woman an encouraging smile. We're going to figure this out, I promise. Scylla hovered nearby, her eyes shining with excitement. Look, Kara, there are more pods opening up. Kara glanced around, and sure enough, several of the other pods were now activating, their occupants slowly emerging from their long, frozen slumber. She felt a surge of awe and wonder, realizing that they were on the verge of witnessing something truly extraordinary. As more humans began to stir, Kara and Scylla worked tirelessly to assist them, helping them out of the pods and guiding them to safety. The humans were disoriented and confused, but Kara could see the glimmer of hope in their eyes as they took in their new surroundings. Where are we? One of the men asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. Kara hesitated, unsure of how to best convey the passage of time and the fate of their home planet. You're on a different world, she said carefully. Your home, Earth, is gone. The man's face crumpled with anguish, and Kara felt a pang of sympathy. She reached out, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. But you're not alone, she said, gesturing to the other humans who were now gathering, their voices rising in a mix of fear and wonder. We're going to help you, I promise. The man searched her face, his eyes brimming with a mixture of hope and desperation. Kara held his gaze, her own determination fueling her resolve. What's your name? She asked, her voice soft but unwavering. Alex, the man replied, his tone uncertain. Kara offered him a gentle smile. Well, Alex, welcome to your new home. As the other humans began to find their footing, Kara and Scylla stepped back, watching the scene unfold with a sense of awe and responsibility. They had set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the course of history, and they knew that the challenges ahead would be immense. But in the midst of the uncertainty, Kara felt a glimmer of hope. These humans, these survivors of a long-lost world, were now her people too. And she vowed to do everything in her power to protect them and help them find their way in this strange new reality. As the initial shock and disorientation wore off, the newly revived humans began to gather their wits, taking stock of their strange, alien surroundings. Kara and Scylla watched with a mixture of fascination and trepidation, acutely aware of the immense responsibility they had taken on. One of the humans, a young man named Alex, approached the two alien girls with a hesitant yet determined expression. "Where are we?" he asked, his voice laced with a hint of desperation. Kara glanced at Scylla, silently pleading for guidance. They had managed to communicate basic information to the humans, but the language barrier was proving to be a significant obstacle. "You're on a different planet," Kara said slowly, carefully choosing her words. "Your home, Earth, is gone." Alex's eyes widened, and Kara could see the anguish and disbelief etching across his features. "Gone," he echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. "How is that possible?" Kara bit her lip, wishing she had the words to ease his pain. "I'm afraid we don't know all the details," she admitted. "But we found you and the others frozen in these pods. You've been preserved for a very long time." Alex's gaze shifted to the rows of cryopods lining the walls, his brow furrowed in concentration. Kara could practically see the gears turning in his mind as he tried to process this incomprehensible information. "So how long have we been asleep?" he asked, his voice thick with trepidation. Scylla stepped forward, her expression sympathetic. "We're not sure, but based on the state of this facility, it's been centuries, maybe even thousands of years." Alex's face paled, and Kara reached out to steady him as he swayed on his feet. "Thousands of years," he breathed, his voice laced with disbelief. "That can't be. My family, my friends, they're all gone, aren't they?" Kara felt a pang of sorrow for the young man, and she gently squeezed his arm. "I'm so sorry," she said, her own voice heavy with empathy. "We can only imagine how difficult this must be for you." Alex stared at her, his eyes brimming with a mix of grief and desperation. "What are we supposed to do now?" he asked, his voice cracking. Kara exchanged a helpless glance with Scylla, acutely aware of their own limitations. As outsiders to this human world, they had no easy answers to offer. "We'll do everything we can to help you and the others," Scylla said, her tone reassuring. "For now, the most important thing is to make sure you're all safe and taken care of." Alex nodded, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Kara could see the glimmer of hope in his eyes, and she silently vowed to do whatever it took to nurture that fragile spark. As the other humans began to emerge from their cryopods, Kara and Scylla found themselves at the center of a makeshift community, their alien origins now a source of wonder and curiosity rather than fear. One by one, the humans approached the girls, their expressions a mix of trepidation and cautious optimism. Kara and Scylla did their best to communicate, using a combination of gestures, simple words, and the occasional drawing to try and bridge the language gap. It was slow, frustrating work, but Kara could see the determination in the humans' eyes. They were survivors, and despite the overwhelming odds, they were clinging to the hope that they could find a way to adapt to this new, unfamiliar world. As the day wore on, Kara and Scylla led the humans to a more secure area of the facility, guiding them to a large, open space that seemed suitable for temporary living quarters. The humans began to explore their new surroundings, their voices rising in a cacophony of wonder and unease. Kara watched them with a heavy heart, acutely aware of the monumental task that lay ahead. These humans had lost everything, their homes, their families, their very way of life. And now they were being asked to adapt to an alien world, with two young girls as their sole guides. "We have to find a way to help them," she said, turning to Scylla. "They're depending on us, and we can't let them down." Scylla nodded, her expression resolute. "Whatever it takes," she said, her voice unwavering. "We'll figure this out, Kara. Together." Kara felt a surge of gratitude for her friend's unwavering support, and she knew that with Scylla by her side, they could face any challenge that lay ahead. Steeling her resolve, she turned to the gathering of humans, her gaze sweeping over their faces. "We may not be able to bring back your home," she said, her voice clear and reassuring. "But we will do everything in our power to help you find a new one. This is your world now, and we're going to make sure you thrive in it." The humans fell silent, their eyes fixed on Kara with a mix of hope and uncertainty. But Kara could see the glimmer of determination in their expressions, and she knew that with time and perseverance, they would find a way to overcome the odds and forge a new future for themselves. It would not be an easy path, but Kara was determined to see it through, no matter what obstacles lay in their way. In the days that followed, Kara and Sila worked tirelessly alongside the newly awakened humans, determined to help them adapt to their strange new environment. The language barrier remained a significant challenge, but the two alien girls refused to be deterred. They spent countless hours poring over the facility's systems, learning how to operate the cryopods and safely revive their human occupants. One by one, the frozen chambers came to life, releasing their slumbering cargo into the care of the growing community. Alex, the first human Kara and Sela had encountered, quickly emerged as a natural leader among his people. Despite his own overwhelming sense of loss and displacement, he demonstrated a remarkable resilience, rallying the others and helping to organize their efforts. "We need to understand more about this place," he said to Kara and Sila, his brow furrowed in concentration. "If there are more of us out there, frozen in these pods, we have to find a way to wake them up." Kara nodded, impressed by the human's determination. "We'll do everything we can to help," she assured him, her tone resolute. "But it's going to take time, and we'll need to work together." Alex seemed to understand, and he turned to the other humans, his voice raising in a series of encouraging commands. Kara and Sila watched in awe as the group sprang into action, dividing themselves into teams and setting to work on various tasks. Some began to explore the facility, mapping out the layout and searching for any useful supplies or information. Others focused on establishing a basic living space, scavenging materials to build makeshift shelters and gather food. Kara and Sila lent their own expertise where they could, guiding the humans through the intricacies of the cryopod systems and helping to interpret the alien technology. It was a delicate dance, as they strove to share their knowledge without overwhelming the fragile human psyche. As the days turned into weeks, the small community began to take shape, and Kara couldn't help but feel a sense of pride at their progress. The humans, once disoriented and despairing, were now working together with a newfound determination, their resilience and adaptability a testament to the strength of the human spirit. One day, as Kara was overseeing the reactivation of another cryopod, she noticed a flicker of movement from the corner of her eye. Turning, she saw a young woman emerge, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. "Easy there," Kara said, her voice soothing as she approached the woman. "You're safe now." The woman blinked, her gaze darting around the room. Kara could see the confusion and disorientation etched across her features, and she gently placed a hand on the woman's arm, trying to convey a sense of comfort and reassurance. Suddenly, a commotion erupted from across the chamber, and Kara looked up to see a group of humans gathered around another newly revived individual. She could hear the excited chatter, and a surge of hope swelled within her. "Sila," she called out, beckoning her friend over. "We've got more." Sila hurried to Kara's side, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "This is amazing," she breathed, watching as the humans welcomed their newly awakened companions with open arms. Kara nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "It is, and I think we're just scratching the surface." As the hours passed, more and more cryopods were reactivated, and the human community continued to grow. Kara and Sila found themselves at the heart of it all, their roles as guides and facilitators becoming increasingly crucial as the humans navigated this strange new world. Alex, in particular, seemed to thrive in his position of leadership, his natural charisma and problem-solving skills proving invaluable. Kara watched with a sense of pride as he helped organize the others, delegating tasks and ensuring that everyone's needs were being met. "We couldn't have done this without you," he said to Kara and Scylla one day, his expression a mix of gratitude and awe. "You've given us a second chance at life." Kara felt a warmth spread through her chest, and she placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes meeting his with a reassuring gaze. "You're the ones who have done the hard work," she said, her voice soft. "We're just here to help." Alex nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "Still, we owe you a debt we can never repay. And I promise you, we'll do whatever it takes to make the most of this chance you've given us." Kara felt a surge of pride at his words, and she knew that the bond between the humans and the Xandarians was only going to grow stronger with time. They were in this together, facing an uncertain future with a shared determination to overcome the odds. As the day drew to a close, Kara and Scylla stood back, watching the bustling community with a sense of wonder. They had come to this place seeking only salvage and scrap, but instead they had discovered something far more precious, a chance to give a lost civilization a new beginning. And they were more than ready to rise to the challenge. As the human settlement grew and thrived under the watchful guidance of Kara and Scylla, whispers of their remarkable discovery began to spread through the nearby alien communities. Word traveled quickly, and it wasn't long before the two Xandarian girls found themselves at the center of a growing storm of curiosity, and in some cases, outright suspicion. Kara could feel the tension in the air as they ventured out beyond the confines of the Cryo facility, conducting scavenging runs to gather additional supplies and materials. The once deserted ruins were now teeming with the activity of various alien species, all drawn by the promise of ancient technology and the allure of the mysterious humans. "I don't like the way they're looking at us," Scylla murmured, her eyes darting warily as they navigated the crowded streets. "It's like they're sizing us up, trying to figure out what we're hiding." Kara nodded, her own senses on high alert. "I know. We need to be extra cautious from now on. The last thing we want is to attract the wrong kind of attention." As they returned to the makeshift human settlement, Kara couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The humans had come so far, adapting remarkably well to their new surroundings and forging a sense of community that Kara found deeply inspiring. But she also knew that their fragile existence hung by a thread, vulnerable to the whims and machinations of the alien powers that now eyed them with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Alex, the natural leader of the human group, approached Kara and Scylla, his brow furrowed with concern. "Something's wrong, isn't it?" he asked, his gaze searching their faces. Kara hesitated, weighing her words carefully. "We're starting to attract a lot of attention from the other alien species in the area," she admitted. "They're curious about you, about what you're doing here." Alex's expression darkened, and Kara could see the worry etched across his features. "Do they mean us harm?" he asked, his voice tight with tension. "I'm not sure," Kara replied honestly, "but we need to be prepared for the possibility. The last thing we want is for them to see you as a threat that needs to be eliminated." Alex nodded, his jaw set with determination. "Then we'll have to make sure they see us as allies, not enemies," he said, his gaze sweeping over the bustling human community. "We've come too far to let everything we've built be destroyed." Kara felt a swell of admiration for the young human's resolve, and she placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "We'll do everything we can to protect you," she promised. "But you need to be vigilant and prepared to defend yourselves if necessary." Alex's eyes narrowed, and Kara could see the gears turning in his mind. "What do you suggest we do?" he asked, his voice low and serious. Kara hesitated, her own uncertainty weighing heavily on her. "For now, I think we need to focus on strengthening your defenses, both physical and diplomatic. We'll need to reach out to the other alien communities, try to establish a dialogue and build alliances. And if that doesn't work—" Alex pressed, his expression grim. Kara sighed, wishing she had a more definitive answer. "Then we'll have to be prepared to fight," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil churning within her. "We won't let them take you without a fight." Alex regarded her for a moment, his eyes searching her face. Then, slowly, he nodded, his own determination mirroring Kara's. "Then that's what we'll do," he said, his voice resolute. "We'll fight for our right to exist in this new world, no matter the cost." As Alex turned to rally the other humans, Kara watched him go, a mix of pride and trepidation swelling in her chest. She knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, and that the fate of these resilient humans now rested heavily on her and Sila's shoulders. But she also knew that she couldn't, and wouldn't, back down. These humans were her people now, and she would do whatever it took to ensure their survival and prosperity in this strange alien world. Sila came to stand beside her, her own expression mirroring Kara's resolve. "We're in this together," she murmured, her hand reaching out to grasp Kara's. Kara squeezed her friend's hand, drawing strength from her unwavering support. "Yes, we are," she said, her voice filled with a renewed sense of purpose. "And we're going to win." With a deep breath, Kara turned her gaze towards the distant horizon, already planning their next move. The battle lines had been drawn, and she knew that the fight for the humans' future had only just begun. The tension in the air was palpable as Kara and Sila met with the human leaders, including Alex, to discuss the growing threats they faced. Word of the human settlement had spread quickly, and it was clear that not all the alien species in the region were pleased with their presence. "Some of the nearby clans are demanding that we hand over the humans," Kara said, her brow furrowed with concern. "They see you as a potential threat, something that needs to be eliminated for the sake of their own interests." Alex's expression hardened, and Kara could see the determination burning in his eyes. "We won't go down without a fight," he declared, his voice resolute. "These are our homes now, and we'll defend them to the last." Sila nodded, her own eyes narrowing. "We'll stand with you," she said, her tone unwavering. "But we need to be strategic. If we engage them head-on, we may not stand a chance." The human leaders exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the situation clearly weighing heavily on them. Kara could see the fear and uncertainty in their faces, but she was also struck by the resilience and courage that shone through. "What do you suggest we do?" one of the older men asked, his voice gruff but tinged with a hint of desperation. Kara took a deep breath, her mind racing as she considered their options. "We need to strengthen our defenses, both physically and diplomatically," she said, her tone measured. "We'll need to fortify our settlement, create a perimeter that will be difficult for the enemy to breach." Alex nodded, his expression focused. "And the diplomatic front?" "We'll need to reach out to other alien communities," Sila chimed in, her gaze sweeping across the gathered humans. "Try to build alliances, show them that we're not a threat, but rather a potential partner in this new world." Kara could see the hesitation in the faces of the humans, and she reached out to place a reassuring hand on Alex's arm. "I know it's a lot to ask," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But it's the best chance we have of ensuring your survival." Alex held her gaze, his own hand coming to cover hers. "We're with you," he said, his voice unwavering. "Whatever it takes, we'll do it." The other human leaders murmured their agreement, and Kara felt a surge of pride and gratitude. These people, who had already lost so much, were now putting their trust in her and Sila, willing to fight for a future they could scarcely imagine. In the days that followed, the human settlement was transformed as they worked tirelessly to fortify their position. Walls were erected, defensive structures were built, and the once open spaces were now guarded by a network of watchful eyes. Kara and Sila coordinated with the human leaders, sharing their knowledge of alien technology and tactics to ensure that their defenses were as strong as they could be. They also began the delicate diplomatic dance, reaching out to neighboring communities and attempting to forge alliances. The process was slow and arduous, filled with suspicion and mistrust. Many of the aliens they encountered saw the humans as little more than a curiosity, or worse, a potential threat to their own interests. But Kara and Sila refused to be deterred, their determination fueled by the resolve of the humans they had come to care for. As the preparations for the impending confrontation continued, Kara couldn't help but be struck by the transformation of the human community. Where once they had been disoriented and overwhelmed, they now stood tall, their faces etched with a fierce determination that Kara found both humbling and inspiring. And then, one fateful day, the attack came. Sila's warning echoed through the settlement, her voice filled with urgency. "They're coming," she cried, her eyes wild with alarm. Kara felt her heart race as she rushed to the fortifications, the humans already pouring out to meet the invaders. She could see the fear in their eyes, but she was also struck by the unwavering courage that shone through. "We won't let them take us without a fight," Alex shouted, his voice rallying the others as they braced themselves for the onslaught. The battle that followed was a blur of chaos and violence, as the alien invaders unleashed their fury upon the human settlement. Kara and Sila fought alongside the humans, their own powers and abilities augmenting the defense. But the enemy was relentless, and Kara could see the toll it was taking on the human defenders. They were outnumbered and outmatched, and she knew that their only chance lay in turning the tide of the battle. With a surge of determination, Kara stepped forward, her hands raised as she summoned the full extent of her abilities. The air around her crackled with energy, and she could feel the power coursing through her veins. "This ends now," she cried, her voice echoing through the chaos. And as the alien invaders recoiled in the face of her onslaught, Kara knew that the fate of the human settlement and the very future of their newfound community hung in the balance. The battle raged on, a clash of ancient human resilience and alien might that shook the very foundations of the Cryo facility settlement. Kara and Sila fought alongside the human defenders, their extraordinary abilities providing a crucial edge in the desperate struggle. As Kara unleashed another devastating salvo of energy blasts, she could see the enemy forces faltering, their ranks thinning under the relentless onslaught. Alex and the other human leaders rallied their people, their cries of defiance echoing through the chaos. Sila darted between the combatants, her life form a blur as she disabled and disarmed the alien invaders. Kara marveled at her friend's skill and agility, grateful for the Xandarians' unwavering support in this pivotal moment. But even as the tide of the battle began to turn, Kara couldn't shake the sense of foreboding that lingered in the back of her mind. She knew that this was no mere skirmish, but the opening salvo in a much larger conflict, one that would have far-reaching implications for both the human settlement and the delicate balance of power in the region. As the last of the alien invaders retreated, a hush fell over the battlefield. Kara and Sila stood amidst the smoke and rubble, their chests heaving with exertion, their eyes scanning the faces of the human defenders. Alex approached them, his expression a mix of relief and trepidation. "We did it," he said, his voice hoarse. "We held them off." Kara nodded, her own gaze troubled. "For now," she said, her words laced with a hint of uncertainty. Sila placed a hand on Kara's arm, her eyes filled with understanding. "They'll be back," she murmured, her tone grave. "And next time, they may bring even greater forces to bear." Alex's brow furrowed, and Kara could see the worry etching across his features. "What are we going to do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kara took a deep breath, her mind racing. "We need to prepare," she said, her tone resolute. "We need to fortify our defenses, strengthen our alliances, and ensure that we're ready for whatever comes next." The human leaders gathered around them, their faces etched with a mix of exhaustion and determination. Kara knew that they were searching for her and Sila to provide guidance, to offer a glimmer of hope in the face of this overwhelming challenge. "We'll do whatever it takes," Alex said, his voice shaking with emotion. "We've come too far to just give up now." Kara reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I know," she said, her voice soft but reassuring, "and we'll be right here with you, every step of the way." As the human settlement bustled with activity, Kara and Sila retreated to a quiet corner, their minds consumed by the implications of what had just occurred. "This is bigger than just us, isn't it?" Sila murmured, her eyes downcast. Kara nodded, her expression grave. I'm afraid so. By reviving these humans and helping them establish a foothold in this region, we've inadvertently upset the delicate balance of power among the alien factions. Sila's brow furrowed, her gaze meeting Kara's with a mixture of concern and determination. Then we need to be prepared for the consequences, she said, her voice unwavering. We can't turn our backs on them now, not after everything we've been through. Kara reached out, grasping Sila's hand in her own. I know, she said, her voice thick with emotion. And we won't. But we need to be smart about this, Sila. The stakes have been raised, and we can't afford to make any mistakes. Sila nodded, her grip tightening around Kara's fingers. We'll figure it out, she said, her voice filled with resolve. Together. As the days turned into weeks, the human settlement transformed once more, its defenses reinforced, and its alliances strengthened through the tireless efforts of Kara, Sila, and the human leaders. The threat of the alien invaders loomed ever-present, a constant reminder of the fragility of their newfound existence. But in the face of this adversity, the human spirit only grew stronger. Alex and his people worked tirelessly, their determination fueling their ingenuity as they devised new strategies and technologies to counter the ever-evolving threats. Kara and Sila watched with a mixture of pride and trepidation, their own roles evolving as they became not just mentors and guides, but true partners in the fight for the human survival. And as the final preparations were made, Kara knew that the battle to come would be the decisive one, a clash that would not only determine the fate of the human settlement, but also the very future of their own world. Are you ready for this? Sila asked, her eyes filled with a resolute determination that mirrored Kara's own. Kara took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the bustling settlement. As ready as we'll ever be, she said, her voice steady and sure. Let's do this. With that, the two Xandarian girls turned and strode back into the fray, their powers and their resolve fully committed to the defense of their newfound human family. The battle raged on, a clash of ancient human resilience and alien might that shook the very foundations of the Cryo facility settlement. Kara and Sila fought alongside the human defenders, their extraordinary abilities providing a crucial edge in the desperate struggle. As the dust settled and the last of the invading forces retreated, a profound silence fell over the battered but resolute human community. Alex, their steadfast leader, stood amidst the rubble, his gaze sweeping across the faces of his people. We did it, he breathed, the weight of his words heavy with a mixture of relief and disbelief. We held them off. Kara and Sila stood by his side, their own expressions a reflection of the complex emotions that filled the air. They had poured their hearts and souls into this fight, risking everything to ensure the survival of the humans they had come to care for. It's not over yet, Kara said, her voice low but unwavering. The other alien factions will not simply accept our presence here. We have to be prepared for what's to come. Alex nodded, his brow furrowing with a renewed sense of determination. Then that's what we'll do, he said, his gaze hardening. We'll fortify our defenses, strengthen our alliances, and show them that we're not going anywhere. The human leaders gathered around them, their faces etched with a mix of exhaustion and resolve. Kara could see the glimmer of hope in their eyes, a testament to the resilience that had carried them through this ordeal. What about going back to Earth? One of the older men asked, his voice tinged with a hint of desperation. Is there any way we could return to our home? Kara's heart sank, and she exchanged a weighted glance with Sila. I'm afraid that's no longer an option, she said, her tone laced with regret. Earth is gone, and the human civilization we once knew is no more. The man's expression crumpled, and Kara could see the grief and loss etched across his features. She reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. But this can be your new home, she said, her voice soft but resolute. We'll help you build a life here, a future that honors the sacrifices of your past. The man searched her face, his eyes brimming with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Slowly, he nodded, his posture straightening as he accepted the weight of their new reality. As the human community began to rebuild and fortify their settlement, Kara and Scylla found themselves at the center of a delicate diplomatic dance, navigating the complex web of alien alliances and power structures. They reached out to the neighboring factions, offering treaties and trade agreements, all while carefully managing the perception of the human settlement. It was a delicate balancing act, one that required all of their diplomatic skills and political acumen. But the humans, too, played a vital role in this endeavor, their own adaptability and resourcefulness proving to be a valuable asset. Alex and his people immersed themselves in the intricate dynamics of the alien world, learning the languages, customs, and unwritten rules that governed this strange new reality. Slowly but surely, the human settlement began to carve out its own place in the galactic community, no longer seen as a mere curiosity or a potential threat, but as a valuable partner and ally. Kara watched the transformation with a sense of pride and wonder, marveling at the resilience and determination of the humans she had once sought to protect. They had become her people, her family, and she knew that she would do whatever it took to ensure their continued prosperity and growth. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Kara and Scylla found themselves at a crossroads. The human settlement had become a thriving, self-sustaining community, no longer reliant on their alien guardians. "They don't need us anymore," Scylla said one day, her voice tinged with a hint of wistfulness. Kara nodded, her gaze fixed on the bustling settlement before them. "I know," she said, her tone contemplative, "but that doesn't mean our journey together is over." Scylla looked at her, her brow furrowed with a mixture of understanding and uncertainty. "What do you mean?" Kara turned to her friend, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "We may not be their protectors anymore, but we can still be their partners, their allies in this new, uncharted world." Scylla's expression slowly brightened, and she reached out to grasp Kara's hand. "Then that's what we'll be," she said, her voice filled with determination. As the human community continued to flourish, Kara and Scylla remained by their side, offering guidance, sharing knowledge, and forging a bond that transcended the boundaries of their respective worlds. The path ahead was still uncertain, filled with challenges and obstacles that would test the limits of their resilience and ingenuity. But Kara knew that with the humans by their side, and the humans knowing that they had Kara and Scylla to lean on, they would face whatever the future held with a steadfast determination that would shape the course of not just their own destiny, but the destiny of the entire galaxy. It was a new beginning, a chance for both humans and Xandarians to write the next chapter of their shared history, and Kara couldn't wait to see where the journey would lead them.